Hello and welcome to Moose Meets, where I sit down with various protocols to explore their innovations and what sets them apart. And of course, we'll be digging for some exclusive alpha for you, so make sure to lean in and stay tuned to ensure you don't miss a thing. Without further ado, let's jump right in. Ooga booga, my fellow Beras, welcome back to another episode on the Berachain Ecosystem series. Today I have Albert from Wagmipad with me. Hey Albert, how are you doing?
Hello, everyone. This is Albert from Wagmipad. I'm doing good. Nice to meet you, Moose.
Yeah, nice to meet you too. And let's
Yeah.
hear more about Wagmipad from you. So let's kick it off firstly with what is Wagmipad?
Sure. Okay, so you see, it's gonna be a long story when it comes to Wagmipad because initially I'm one of the participants through since ICO era and then through the IDO and IO and then it's a lot of hassle when it comes to this IDO project and IDO launchpad because you know what, it's pretty hard to actually fight for whitelist nowadays, especially if you were to go through like CoinList and all these platforms that you have to queue basically behind like 500,000 people. It's a very tedious job, and that's the reason why we want to create this Wagmipad to ensure that we have a chance for our community to get into IDO projects, investment. So how we do is that Wagmipad is actually a Berachain centric launchpad that leverage on the proof of liquidity to earn yield, while at the same time we offer a new way to sell tokens to making sure that it's safe and trustworthy. So how we do it is that we emphasize on curation to filter out fraud and scammers before we list these projects. This makes Wagmipad a go-to platform for people who want secure investment in cryptocurrency while fixing common problems in the field such as listing transparency concern. You know.
Yeah, okay. And then me just to ask, because of course we all are familiar with Ramen Finance, right? It's another
Yes.
launchpad on Berachain as well. What makes Wagmipad different from Ramen Finance or other launchpads on Berachain?
Okay, good question. So firstly, we are the only platform that leverage on POL to create a mechanism called Wagmi Farm, which serves as a community VC to help our loyal communities to buy token at pre-sale or even at least at the least price of the ideal project. So you see, because most of the time when it comes to project they want to build on Berachain, they must has a good reason to try to leverage on the POL. And this is what we do. We try to use the BGT emissions of the LP provider to invest into IDO projects so that they will make a profit out of it in a more return. As in, if I were to share apple to apple comparison, let's say if we start with a user provide an LP to maybe another protocol and then they earn the BGT emissions, right? But in Redmi Farm is that we will actually ask them to invest these BGT emissions into IDO project so that if these projects comes with good return, eventually these returns will all go back to the LP. So you see, if you compare both things, right, the yield is a lot more compared to the first version. Okay. At the same time, as I mentioned just now, we are doing these three layers of curation before listing project on our platform. And this helps to protect investors from exposing to fraud. And these three layers is that, we have our community that vote for the things that they think that the project that is legit. And at the same time, we also work with our Berachain's OG, which is most of the founders that's in other protocols that help us to curate on project to make sure that whether these projects, they have this high credibility to actually to be in Berachain so that it's a way that for us to make sure there's more transparency when it comes to listing project. And this is what makes us different from other platform. Of course, I understand that other platforms are also doing their curations, but our three layers of curation mechanism is a lot different when it comes to that because it's more about a governance kind of things.
Got it. So of course you mentioned having other founders and community to take part in the curation. Maybe you could go a bit more in depth on how that will work.
Okay, sure. So basically, we try to invite most of the founders from different protocols because they are the people that is actually the most active in the Berachain ecosystems. So definitely, they know about what happened in the ecosystem as well, and they actually help us to curate on the project they wish to list on Magmipad, and at the same time, somehow they will be incentivized by doing so. So at the same time, we also incentivize our community in doing these curations. It helps to somehow increase the skill of the DD skill of our community so that they will be able to also protect themselves from frauds and scammers in the future. So actually it's a try-win scenario. Let me put it this way. Assuming if we have the community that help us do curations, so it also help the team of MPad to lessen our burden as well. So it's a win-win situation for both party because they also got incentivized by doing so. And then Imagine in this crypto space nowadays is that things evolve so fast. And sometimes we just rely on the team itself to do the DD doesn't mean that we will be able to understand everything on one particular project, right? So let's say project A wish to list on Wagmipad, and then maybe the community, one of the community member, maybe some of the OGs of the Berachain, somehow they know the team member of project A, or maybe they understand certain background of project A, and then they provide us with the insight so that we know that whether we should list these projects or not. So the best part is that we will have a lot of OGs that try to help us. We will have at least 42 OG jury to help us with the curations. And it's a layback job because they don't even have to work so hard on these things. It's like we will just need a certain quorum to hit a certain quorum so that there's enough insight provided by these people. Then we will be able to use this information to understand whether we should list these projects or not. And by doing so, it helps us to identify better when it comes to the credibility of projects. Because imagine when it comes to post mainnet, right? And imagine with so much fund raised by Berachain, there'll be a lot of scammers. Definitely, they want to come in and make some profit out of the plebs, right? So I think this is one of the best way to do it, and we will do it one step at a time because we understand that governance is never an easy job and it's not going to be 100% participations. So we will do phases by phases to ensure that things go as we plan, because this is the best way, the best approach compared to what the normal curations by other platform, which most of the time they are just doing their own DD without any transparency, and then they will just list the project. And there will be a lot of things happen behind if these kind of things happen, because they might be just because of maybe project A paying some fees to the launchpad, or maybe because they have some connection with this launchpad, so they list them. But through this process, it doesn't actually protect the community. And that's why for us, we really emphasize of these curations to ensure that the community will be protected.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
So a few questions here. You mentioned like hitting the quorum by the
Mm-hmm.
OGs and all. So like would it be some sort of like the proposal of the governance process that we're familiar with, where it's like a kind of a back and forth thing where people have a discussion and then go and vote, and then if it hits quorum then we move on to the next step, and how does the whole process look like?
So yes, there will be a similar standard of the governance contract that we will come up with, which they will be able to vote, and then they will give some comments. And for OG, there will be a different part in which we'll have two channel for them to in Discord for them to ask question to this proposal. Like let's say Project A will be able to get into the channel to this to know, so that the OG will be able to ask them questions to understand further about this project, so that they'll be able to understand further and give good insight when it comes to the curation. While for the community, they will go through the standard governance voting to give us all this information. And of course, through the incentive mechanism, we will only try to incentivize these people that give genuine input. Let's say this OG give good content, and then we incentivize him. But the other community member try to copy the content from this OG, and then maybe he'll just go to the ChatGPT to do some, the changes of the sentence, and then like plagiarism, right? But for these kind of things, we will try to filter out and try to, make sure that we only incentivize people that is genuine, that they give us really good insight, first come, first serve, so that the community will know that, well, in that case, they will be more hardworking to put more effort into the DD and then to do the curations, so that eventually we'll achieve what we want to achieve, as in to get do these good projects on Wagmipad.
Okay, okay, got it.
Yeah.
Right, and I think my next question is like, why do you want to build on Berachain? Right, you mentioned that you've been here since the ideal season and all. Like, why now do you choose to launch something on Berachain?
Yeah. So back then, I was actually a Monero cult in 2016. It was purely into the tech, and we are really having fun doing this transaction and then try to understand further about the tech. Then along the way, actually through the ICO era, and then we see people like us that OG that we have to suffer go through the crypto winter, which is pretty tough. And then it comes the DeFi summer, and then somehow we make some money, and somehow we don't get the sense of belonging anymore. As in that until I have met the community in Berachain. I mean, the cloud light feature here is super cool that we wish to build a project here. Not to mention that the proof of liquidity that work best with our launchpad mechanism, which is called the liquidity provision offering, right? And this is the reason why we want to build on Berachain. And the community in Berachain is a lot different compared to other chains. People here, they are more cooperative and then they work together. And even every founders, they work together, I mean, in a very good way. So I mean, with what we have seen, especially we have just been to Dubai and then we met everyone in Token 2049. I mean, people there is super cool. And this makes us have even more faith in building good project in Berachain.
Right. Okay. Got it. And then you mentioned the liquidity provision offering LPO there.
Yeah.
Do you want to go more in depth into it?
Sure, definitely. So for these things, is like this is one of the features. So in that thing, actually, I would like to cover more about the features that we have in Wagmipad. Would that be okay for me to say that? You said as in what makes us stand out from other launchpad, right? So the first thing that I mentioned to you just now is about the curations that we have done, which is the 3 layers of curations. And then the second features of Wagmipad is that as long as you have the NFT of Wagmipad, you will be forever whitelisted, which means you are guaranteed a whitelist spot for all projects listed on Wagmipad in the future. Okay. And then the third feature is that we will also have this forever allocation, which is that because you have the whitelist doesn't mean that you will secure the allocation, right? Most of the time when certain project they are oversubscribed and then they got this whitelist, when they got in, then because of this first come first serve basis, and now this whitelist also doesn't have the chance to buy from the IDO. So for our forever allocation is that there will be a specific allocation allocate for this person, and then as long as he buy within this specific period of time, then it's okay. I mean, he will get this allocation. Of course, once it's out of this timing, it will go to the public round. Okay. So, and then the next feature that we have is that with some of the project, we will go through with the KYC free process. So unlike other launchpad that require cumbersome KYC processes, we prioritize on inclusivity. As long as you are the community of Wagmipad, you are welcome to participate without the needs for extensive verifications. But of course, I have to put it here that it's only applied to certain listed projects because we still want to make sure that things goes as we plan and we don't want to make things worse because there are certain situations sometimes certain project they might need to actually get more what KYC depending on the origin of the country. Then the next feature would be we call it a Ragi resist insurance funds. So let's say when it comes to the curations have done and assuming that most of the OG and the community maybe they agreed to list on certain project, let's say project C. But somehow we deem this project to be still in the range of higher risk. In this situation, we will want them to lock a portion of their raise fund in the multi-sig wallet, and then we will only gradually release the fund to them depending on their development milestones. This works best when it comes to project that wants to build like maybe meme coin, but somehow with a good team. Because assuming if there's a good team that want to build a meme coin and then they are willing to go through the curation process, this not only helps them to create more awareness, at the same time, it somehow achieve a sense of endorsement from the Berachain ecosystems people, the community. And then this helps to also makes them more, legit when it comes to things that they want to do. And if they are willing to lock a portion of their fund, which means that they are confident in delivering what they promise in their roadmap as well. So it's gonna be a win-win situation for the community, for the Wagmipad, and also for the project that's doing the meme coin or maybe some other higher risk projects. Okay, and
Mm-hmm.
for the last part of our feature is actually called Wagmi Farm. So for these things, I'll go a bit lengthy, as in so like it's like over the past 7 years. I think I have to go even earlier. The ICO concept is actually started since 2013 by Mastercoin. The first ICO is called Mastercoin. And then the term of ICO actually only got popular in 2017. So let's say within these 7 years from 2017 until now, right? Over these 7 years, it's like token sales gain after they gain the popularity. There is basically no advancement in launchpad mechanism since then, apart from the balancers introduced the LBP. So there's no improvement. Like, come on, even Uniswap they have this V1, V2, V3, right? But you never see any improvement when it comes to launchpad mechanism. And this is why we want to break the status quo, and then we introduced this innovative strategy that utilized the Berachain's POL to employ the BGT emissions to projects that we want to list them. So how we do it is like we will have these people that they will provide LP to our Wagmipad. So it's going to be a Wagmi Bera LP. And then the Wagmi Bera LP will have these BGT emissions that we will go into the Wagmi farm. This Wagmi farm serve as the community VC that will be able to invest into IDO project at least at the pre-sale price or at least at the list price of the ideal project. So let's say this project after they got curated and it's a good project, and then we want to list at 10 cent. So our launchpad mechanism is just gonna be first come first serve basis of the conventional launchpad, not LBP, because LBP is meant for price discovery. It won't work on our LPO, which is our liquidity provision offering. So why it doesn't work on ours? Because price is normally when it comes to project, there's not so much of the awareness. When it's smaller project, you won't see too much of the price section after the price discovery. So we will prefer to go for the diligence maxi way, which let's say this project after they got created and then they're listed at 10 cents. Once they go into an exchange, maybe they pump to become 30 cents, which is times three. And in this scenario, the BGD emissions that we mentioned in the Wagmi farm will basically become times three, and then it goes back to the LP provider. So basically, it's a no-brainer because let's assuming that we put aside the impermanent loss of LP. So basically, the LP provider just risking the reward of the LP, which is the BGT, to invest into the ideal project. Okay, I'll give you one scenario example here that I always mention to other people. Let's say we have this project A that they want to invest, they want to raise 100,000 from Wagmipad. So after the curations, the people in our Wagmipad decided to fork out like allocate like 20,000 from the Wagmi farm to invest into project A. So even before the fundraising of the ideal project, this project A has already secured 20% of the targeted fundraising through the community VC, which is the name of the Wagmi farm. And so let's say 100,000 and then they have already secured 20,000. How about the remaining 80,000? Remember I mentioned about the NFT holders with the 100% whitelist and allocation? They will be able to buy from this 80,000. And this is how our LPO works. And we will also foresee that most of the NFT holders will also be the LP provider, which means they will be able to benefit from both these two processes. And while if you, I believe when it comes to the LPO, we have another trifecta down there is that we work with Kodiak and Berachain to ensure we have a strong liquidity management. So basically what we do is that we will provide some Wagmi token to Kodiak in the service called Kodiak Islands. And then we stick it there and then we will have this emission of the KDK, which will basically strengthen the value of our Wagmi token, Wagmi LP, so sorry. And then at the same time, we will stake this LP to the Berachain Gorge, and we basically will be able to work with them. They're one of our partners that we will somehow manage to get some old Bera and then we convert to high Bera, and with the objective to have the voting power to point the BGT emissions at our LP. So basically, it's gonna be a double whammy because we got the KDK emissions from Korea, so that we will increase the value of our LP. So it means that we also have more BGT emissions, right? And with now we also have the voting power point at our LP, which means we will have even more BGT emissions to our Wagmi farm. So you see, at this time, we also have our own protocol LP, and our protocol LP will also earn this reward of the BGT, right? We will actually use this to incentivize the curators that previously helped us to do the curation, which is the community members and also the OG jury, the Berachain OG jury. Okay. So this
Yep.
is one of the things that we really leverage on POL to ensure that the community actually, they make some benefits from using this mechanism.
Okay, and that was a lot to process, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yep.
So for those who are listening, you can pause here if you want, right? I'm gonna put up an image here. The image will be up throughout the whole part where he was explaining about the LPO, so you can revisit that few minutes to re-listen to it if you can't catch it the first time. I think there was a lot to process. There was many moving parts there. Couple questions from my end. The first one was regarding like the insurance fund, right? So like
Yep.
you mentioned, if the projects are deemed to be a bit riskier, then they will have to be part of the fund where at certain milestones, then you release some part of the money to them.
Yep.
My question is, how is a project deemed risky or not risky?
So, I mean, this is more about the final part of the DD to Wagmipad team. So, because you see, we have to admit that when it comes to governance, there are still a lot of way to game it as well. And even it's pretty common when it comes to crypto that when people they have too much of the token, they will be able to do the governance as going to their own interest. Same applies to our these creations for this project, because if certain project they might have some connection with certain OGs, maybe, or maybe they have some good hype with the community member, so somehow they'll be able to sway their decision to vote for them to list, right? Because of the hype of the meme coin. But somehow we just want to play safe, you see. We want to make sure that we protect our community. And if these meme coin founders, if their team, if they're really serious in building projects, I believe they don't really mind to lock a certain portion of their fund. Because you see, I mean, if you're in the space for long, you will see most of the meme coin, they will announce that they have locked the LP in Unicrypt or in other places, and then they will announce it in their Twitter, right? It's just part of the thing. And then if they are actually willing to even lock certain of their raise fund, their token in the multi-sig, it gives them even more higher credibility, which in turn, I believe it will just give the community members or their investor more confident in buying this meme coin. So I think it's a win-win situation for everyone. And if they have a long goal and they know about these things that it's good for their team and their projects, I don't think it's hard for us to actually convince them to onboard into this multi-sig.
Right. Okay. Got it. And second thing you mentioned there was about the NFTs. So
Right.
you mentioned about holding NFTs equals to being forever whitelisted and all. So my question is like, could you share the details of the NFT mint? What's the price? When is it gonna be? And all? Is that all the details out yet?
Okay, so as for the NFT mint, the details will be out in our Twitter post soon, but the mint date should be within before the end of May. And we will also share the utilities of the NFT in a Medium post so that you'll be able to see it. I mean, the community will be able to see it. And as I mentioned, we share the utilities, right? If you don't mind, I will just cover a bit of the utilities for this NFT.
Yeah,
So
please go ahead.
first, just okay. First thing about the utilities, of course, as I mentioned just now, you will have this 100% whitelist and allocation, and it's gonna be forever, which means these NFT holders they no longer have to go and beg and appeal for whitelist. Like, give me whitelist, please. No more this kind of begging. This is for number one, and for number two, they will be able to stake this NFT and do the curations. At the same time, they will be incentivized by doing so. So this is one of the stream of the income as well, profit as well. And then the thirdly is that there will be a Wagmi token airdrop for NFT holders. Okay. And the fourth utilities is that they will also earn reward from our Wagmi farm because you see, as I mentioned just now, we will also have our own protocol that emit these BGT emissions, right? So certain portion of this reward will also go through the process of buying the token at the list price or at least at the pre-sales price. And a portion of it will airdrop to the NFT holders as well.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
Got it.
Mm.
Yep. Thanks for that. Then my next question would be on your token utility, right? You mentioned
Okay.
NFT holders will get a Wagmi token airdrop. So what can the token do for us actually?
Right, sure. So, first thing first, because the Wagmi token, we will need to use it to provide LP so that the whole LPO your works, right? And at the same time, it serves as a governance token for the platform of the Wagmipad, just to make sure that there's no confusion in these things, because NFT will be able to serve as a governance for curation of project listing. Okay, while the governance of the whole operation of the Wagmipad it's through the token, the Wagmi token. So it's gonna be two different things. And besides that, there'll be fee sharing from this token holder. Basically, what we do is that we want them to stake the token and then they will earn the emissions of our token. At the same time, they will be also able to earn the fee from our platform operations. And then they will be also earning from the Wagmi farm reward, similar to how the NFT holders gonna earn through the reward from our protocols LP. And of course, there are a few more utilities coming up, but since we haven't finalized on that, so this is just part of the plan. But we will share more information about these things in the near future, especially when it comes near to the mainnet, because everyone is still waiting for the mainnet. So we are still trying to come up with better utilities and then to make it even better, so that the final objective is pretty clear to make sure that the community deserve a good profit from the whole processes and they are safe from rug, as safe as possible. I mean, you see, there's no 100% when it comes to these things. We know it. I mean, crypto is a wild, wild west, and our objective is just try to protect our community as best as we can. And this is what I can say for our token utilities for now.
Gotcha. Amazing. One last question for you. Like just
Mhm.
curious, how big is the team? Like able to share who's taking on like what roles and all?
Oh, okay, sure. So, as I mentioned, I'm the founder, and actually, our teams actually consists of people from the Southeast Asia. We have people from Singapore. We have people from Indonesia. We have people from Malaysia, and also from China. So, for example, Millie is actually in charge of the BD and then the marketing lead. And while we have other devs, the senior dev that is into Solidity, and we also have devs that into like UI UX and all these things. So basically, our team for now consists of 5 persons. So you have Isaac, you have Alan, you have Francis, you have me, and you have Millie. And of course, we will eventually have to expand the team because when it comes to curations, it's going to be a very tedious job, and we will need more people to help us in these things. And you know what? Of all the things I've shared just now, to be frank, when it comes to Launchpad, it's not rocket science. I mean, especially for us, it's just a governance contract and a Launchpad contract. And what we really need to do is to make sure that the execution is doing well. Because you also have seen a lot of projects that raise a lot of funds and then they got screwed up with the execution. And this is not what we want to do. We want to make sure that we do it one step at a time, make sure that things goes as we plan, so that, as I mentioned again, we want to protect our community to avoid them from getting into rug project and things that really hurt them. And that's the reason why we call Wagmipad for a good reason.
Awesome. Love
Yeah.
that. Yeah, I think that's all the questions I have for you today. Before we
Yeah.
go off, is there anything that we might have missed that you want to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, there are one thing that I do want to talk about is that some people they ask us why you want to make you call your platform Wagmipad. It's like Wagme is a word somehow is a bit negative because most of the time when you heard about this word from either in the Telegram or in the Discord, right, and people shouting for Wagme, and then they have this hopium. That particular project normally will go sunset pretty soon because this is what normally happen, and we all know it in the space for long enough. And that's the reason why we want to live up this the name of Wagme, and we want to make it make it as good as possible again.
Awesome. Love that answer.
Yeah,
Yeah, and thanks, Albert, so much for taking time, right, to come on today to share with us more about Wagmipad, right? Looking forward to seeing how the protocol grows and to your minute launch as well, right? And to the
sure.
listeners, that is all for this episode. We will see you in the next episode. Sorry, before I forget, all the links and description down in the description box below as usual, right? So check them out. Discord, Twitter links, all will be there. And that's it. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you, Moose.
And that brings us to the end of this episode of Moose Meets. I hope you enjoyed learning more about them as much as I did. Let me know which other projects you'd like to learn more about in the comments down below. As usual, do remember to hit the thumbs up and subscribe to the pod. We will see you in the next episode.